This is the Symposium podcast with E. Wright and Romero.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Symposium podcast. On the other side of the chair, way over there, let the people know who you are.
Way over here, E. Wright, back again with another episode. Thank you guys for joining us. I'll kick it back to my man.
You know what it is, Rose Gold in the building. Feeling good, feeling great. We have another special guest. Yeah, so in the middle, could you please tell the people who you are, miss?
Yeah, my name is JC Hansen, and I don't know what else you want to say.
Okay, cool.
Welcome, Jason.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, usually we would toast it up, but we are very, very far from each other, so Air toast. Just hand this over.
I didn't have a cup, so.
You didn't have. To you and to the guest. Welcome to the party.
What's going on, man? You good?
I'm living, brother.
Are you?
I'm living.
You a little flustered today, man.
Flustered?
Yeah.
Interesting choice of word.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It also feel like I haven't seen you in a while, too.
We haven't seen each other in like 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and just a busy morning. Busy morning, that's all. You should know. We should talk about that. That should be a new segment. What you told me on the way here, what happened?
Oh, my God, dude. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. But I'm good. What about you? What's going on, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I thought it was Sunday today. I went to a wedding last night.
Yeah, how was that?
It was cool, man. It was fun. It was some coworkers. One of my coworkers. But it was a good time, man. It was St. Paul. I forgot the name of the little venue. It was outside wedding, but then like indoor thing. It was pretty cool though.
Nice.
But yeah, I did that, and that's about it, man. It was like a little later night than I hoped, but it was cool.
That's how weddings go.
Yeah, I had a good time though.
That's good. Well, congrats to the newlyweds.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. JC, how are you?
Oh, I'm golden. I got to sleep in.
Lovely. Sounds nice. Good.
What's sleeping in for you?
Well, usually during like the school year time,
Yeah.
I'm up at like 5:30.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes earlier if I am going to the gym and working out, which I've been talking about doing more again, is I'm usually up by like 4:30, so I could be at the gym at 5, because I have kids, so They're up at 6, out the door.
That's early.
Yeah.
Super busy. All right. Well, should we get into some news?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have that much.
Yeah, it'll be a short one.
Yeah.
Because I got nothing.
There's just two. The series on Netflix, Untold. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So they just came out with one story about, I can't remember how you say his name, Montetio. Do you know that story? Yes. Of course you do.
It's actually, did you watch it yet?
Yeah. Did you see it?
No.
Okay.
That was my plans for tomorrow, but it's fucking wild.
It's something. Yeah, watch it and then we'll talk about it. But you saw it.
Oh, I already saw it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Thoughts on it?
Good. I'm a huge football fan, so it's interesting to watch like the personal lives of players, and it was just, I don't know, it was an intense, crazy story, and it kind of has a lot of twists in it that you're just like, what? But it's really good.
Yeah.
I would recommend it for sure.
So watch it and then we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, on Tuesday comes the story of And One, like the rise and fall.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Some people do not know what And One was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what happened in the end, so I'm curious to find out. But that's it. That's news to me.
Dude, you know what's so funny about this is I've been trying to get you to watch stuff for like months.
Don't.
And then you just come with this new shit. It's very funny to me. It's very
What you
funny.
been trying to make him watch?
No, let's not get it.
Don't get me started.
Hold on, some of the recommendations that you've given me, I've actually sat down and watched. I watched, I saw The Bear.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Euphoria. I can't, you know what it is? It's hard for me to sit down and get into something like that because I can't wrap my head around the fuckery.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Of teenagers.
Yeah.
Like I know these sort of kids, but to that degree, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. So, but guarantee, I do one episode, I'll probably be in it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What else? There's so many I damn forgot, to be honest.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
I go back to that every so often. What else? Godfather of Harlem. I haven't gotten into that yet. That's on my list. What else is there?
I forgot.
Yeah, see, you can't come at me and then forget your list.
Man, this is so long. It's so long.
Man, I know. Well, I don't know if I said this already. Good to see you, though, brother.
You too. You did not. It's crazy,
Yeah.
man. I really didn't realize it was 2 weeks, but it was.
It's been a minute. For anybody who is listening, I was gone. I was on vacation. I went to Colorado for a few days. Peep the shirt. Oh, for the viewers. It was a good time. I hiked, saw some views, a lot of mountains.
Did you tell him where to go?
No, he said I've been there before, is what he said.
Oh,
So he apparently is a Colorado
I went to
expert.
Colorado.
Except for the funny thing is he said he went to Estes Park.
No,
He
don't
said it
talk.
wrong. And I was like, Estes Park? Like I said it right? However he said it. And I was like, okay, so don't school me out of Colorado. I was born there. Yeah.
I said it with a question mark, though. That's
He didn't. He was very, very firm about it.
I can see how this is going to go today. Yes.
I like this.
I know things.
Just because you have somebody on your side.
I like this.
God, it's like when Malia was on here. Fucking, okay. Shout out to my baby sister, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
That's news to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's get to the real reason why
That's enough fucking news.
Yeah.
We're here to grill Miss JC about her life. Just kidding. JC is a wonderful person, and she is here to share some thoughts on things, especially with some questions that I have. But to start, can you tell us what your position is, what your profession is?
Oh, sure. So I'm a community services supervisor for a nonprofit organization. What I do specifically is I oversee mental health practitioners going out into the community and doing adult rehabilitative mental health services, which is what ARM stands for, as well as children's therapeutic services and skills is what CTSS is. And so we kind of work with kids with developmental disabilities or developmental delays, autism, ADHD, and we kind of go in home with, especially with kids, and kind of help work on those basic functioning skills that they're usually behind on. And then for adults, we do a lot of, individual skills, teaching them about illness management and recovery, really helping them when they're kind of sometimes at their lowest to kind of get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been in this profession?
I've been in this specific position for a year.
Oh, okay.
But before that, I worked for a teen homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for quite some time. I did lots of different things there, but I worked with a lot of kids with trauma, especially. And then I was on the Central Minnesota Human Trafficking Task Force. I worked with a lot of human trafficking victims. Did lots of different stuff there.
She has seen some shit.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah. It's quite the field to be working in, but it's quite the position that you're in, especially because I noticed that when you talk about the diagnoses, you make clients feel very, very comfortable. Like they look to you, and even when I'm with clients, they always reference you because of those sort of things. Actually, before I skip ahead, can you share with the people what your diagnoses are?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was like in 3rd grade. And I don't know if there's a thing in psychology with memories where after so long they say our memories are not exact. They're based more on feelings. But I remember being in 3rd grade and doing a parent-teacher conference, and my mom had said that I was struggling, and the teacher had told my mom I was stupid. Like I vividly remember that. And so then my mom had to go get me tested, and they had found out I wasn't stupid at all. I actually had a higher IQ than most of the other kids in my class. I just was bored. So So I was diagnosed with ADHD, and then later as an adult, just in this last year, I was diagnosed with autism, and then I've also experienced some trauma. So I have complex PTSD too. So it's kind of a smorgasbord of things going on over here.
What made you? I'm curious because I have these conversations with people about ASD, and a common thing that I've heard is, oh, that's something that you usually see in children, or children usually get tested.
Yeah.
But you got tested as an adult.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
So most of it had to do with the fact that I knew that I have ADHD, and I knew that it impacted a lot of my life. However, there were some things that didn't fully be explained through the diagnosis of ADHD, and that had caused some severe deficits in my life, honestly, that made it difficult for me to function and to do things, especially when it came to relationships with people, which is a really big part of that diagnosis. And so I had really started being like, I just struggle with this, and working with my therapist, she had suggested, it is possible that I do have that diagnosis, and perhaps it's something, we get tested for. And so I got tested, and here I am. It was pretty clear after the test. So
can you explain the you said the complex
PTSD?
PTSD. What is that?
So post-traumatic stress disorder, and I don't mind sharing any of this information, but I was sexually abused as a child.
Okay.
So when it comes to complex PTSD, it's just that it's more intense, and often has many different layers based on other type of traumas you've experienced in your life. So it's just a little more. It's like the beefed up version of trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with this smorgasbord that you have, what is it like to, because there are a lot of hats that you have to juggle, and especially when it comes to the position that you are in. What is it like to tend to those things and at the same time tend to the things at work?
It's a lot of practice mostly. So I know when you were interviewing good old Jake last time, he talked a lot about how it impacted his life, right? And it's kind of similar, except for, like 1 in 26, I think, boys get diagnosed with autism, and 1 in 143 females get diagnosed with autism. It's harder because we display different versions of it.
Right, it looks different.
100%.
Yeah.
So a lot of the females is social aspects. I really struggle reading social cues. I don't always understand what someone says. I don't get sarcasm sometimes. People make a joke, and I'm like, well, yeah, for sure I did that. And they're like, you did? And they're not realizing that, or why would I do that? They make a joke. I don't always understand that. And a big part of it for me was, so we have a lack of executive functioning skills when you're neurodivergent, which means I have a problem with my working memory, organization. I'm really impulsive. I have sleep problems, lots of, those kinds of things. And so I work in a job where I have to be organized, and you know how hard I work at that. And it's hard because it's like I have to think 2 times more than everyone else, sometimes more, to do normal tasks. Task initiation is really hard for me. I sit down, and if my body and my brain says this isn't for me, I can't do it. I have to learn how to trick my brain into doing tasks I don't want to do. So just trying to juggle things, like, I also have staff, and I have other things, and then also listening to other people's emotions all day, that weighs on me. I'm very Empathetic, yeah. I can feel people's emotions, and some of that has to do with trauma too.
Mm-hmm.
If you grew up in a house with trauma, you learn to read other people's emotions because it keeps you safe. So on top of that, and I do a lot of masking, which is a big thing that happens with females with autism. I walk into a social situation and I almost like adopt what other people are doing.
Yeah, okay.
Which always made me feel like maybe I don't know what my personality is. Maybe when I'm with people with a certain personality, I take that personality, right? And that's like an identity crisis, you know? Like what does that mean for me? But that's what happens. It's like kind of sit in a room and.
Does that get like kind of discouraging when you're like at work, where it's like you feel like you got to work that much harder to do a certain, task or? Yeah,
it does, because I feel all the time that I've never been able to keep up with my peers. School was difficult for me. The school system is not made for any individual who is outside of that box. I know, the special education teacher over here.
Get me started.
It despite their best efforts, and I'm not even gonna say sorry for this, that they aren't even giving their best efforts, right?
Right.
It's almost impossible for me to fit into any of the molds that are presented, even in a workplace. I used to have to ask for accommodations, and people would like make fun of me for it, even as an adult. Please don't sit me in the busiest place in the office. Anytime someone walks by me, I get distracted. It's not because I want to get distracted, but my brain literally is like squirrel. I mean, pardon the term, but that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I get distracted, I get excited about things. So if I don't have like a designated space where I can work on my stuff, it's hard. So it's the balance at work is difficult. The balance at home is difficult. It's just, I'm tired a lot. My brain's probably worn out.
Always on fire.
It never turns off. What's funny is, I don't know if you know this, but most people don't have a never-ending internal dialogue in their brain. I literally hear my voice in my own head 24 hours a day. It never stops. Telling me things, thinking about stuff, planning things out. I can't turn that off. So it's never quiet in my brain. And I don't know what that feels like for it to be that way. So it's tiring for sure. Again, lots of practice, lots of learning more about myself and what works for me. Being open and asking for adaptations. Not everybody's open to that, but.
Yeah. Now you talked about neurodivergence and shared, some of the things that you experienced, but can you tell the people what the difference is between neurodivergence and someone who has a neurotypical brain?
Yeah, absolutely. So like autism and ADHD are considered neurodivergent diagnosis, right? So they're neurological disorders. It means that the connections and the wires in my brains, like I have more than one, right? They don't work the same way everyone else does. Also, it's like chemical deficiency. So we lack a lot of dopamine and serotonin in our brain that makes us happy. So there's like comorbidity. I was worried about saying that word. It's a hard word for me.
Words are hard.
In depression, anxiety, that kind of stuff, because of the fact that we have a lack of those happy hormones in our brain. So like Mr. Jake was saying, is like seeking out those things that make us happy. That's why we have an addictive personality, is because of those things. So a neurotypical person gets those happy hormones regularly, right? Their body chemistry is just different. It's also behavior disorder, and it also is a social disorder. So like 60% of individuals with autism are nonverbal, or they really struggle with communication, whether it be verbal or, nonverbal communication. So that's just kind of like the basis of it. It's definitely affects your neural pathways and how things are connected, and how you process information and how you get information out.
But some of these things seem like, to the eye, can be pretty common things.
Sure.
What are some traits that stand out? I mean, you can never really look at somebody and judge them and be like, oh, that person's autistic, but there has to be some very unique traits.
Absolutely. So one of the main ones.
No, I was just thinking, because when you said, like, just even not getting like the sarcasm or like, I see that, like, I know a few people that like, I'm like, Well, it seems because it seems obvious to me, but like to somebody else it might not be. So that's kind of one that kind of sticks out to me. But,
we take like that's all right. I welcome the questions. It's like we take things literally. So if you tell me there's a lot of kids with autism or individuals with autism who wouldn't understand what it means when someone says it's raining cats and dogs. They go outside and be like, well, why the hell are cats and dogs falling from the sky? That sounds dangerous. They don't understand those puns and those a big one is sensory stuff. It's really hard for me to explain to people. But I feel all of my clothes on my body 24 hours a day. And not just like, you can put on a pair of clothes and you can walk out and you don't think about your clothes all day. I think about them all the time. So the seams, the textures, the feelings, I'm oversensitive to light. That's why I like having my office dark, is overhead, those like fluorescent lights. I can hear the sound of the lights. I can almost hear the buzzing of them. Like, they're so intense for me. Romero's looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, because
yeah.
Is this too much?
No, it's all right. This is fine. They're softer lights, but that's hard for me. Things that are too loud, oh boy, especially if it's early in the morning and I haven't taken my medication or something, I cannot handle like the sound of dishes. So it physically hurts my body to hear those things. The sensory stuff's really hard, which is why a lot of individuals with autism do stimming. It helps with those regulations in our body. I mean, there's lots of different things. Not being able to read facial cues, not understanding, like I said, some of those social cues of when someone gets up and walks away. I do a lot of scripting, is what it's called. Where I walk into a conversation and I have to think about what I'm going to say before I say it, because I don't know how a normal conversation should go. In my head, that's what I watch a lot of movies, so sometimes I copy things that happens in movies, which is actually scripting. For real, like when I used to watch movies with teenage girls in it, because as a teen, because I didn't know how to interact. Because I walk up to people and I'm like, hey, I was a good one, because I'm silly, right? That's just how that's not considered normal or acceptable for people. So I used to like watch how they did things. That's how I wanted to be, because I didn't know how I was supposed to act. I mean, those are kind of things that happen more in that neurodivergent, impulsivity. I can't keep anything organized to save my life. We have something called a doom box, which is you didn't organize, you only moved it. So you can find boxes around my house that just have stuff in it that I didn't really want to or know where to put away, but I just wanted it away. Like, those are things, we're just not great at that kind of stuff.
Okay.
This might be a stupid question, but
do
is there some type of like sensory room in the workplace?
We don't have one. We have sensory stuff. I have fidget toys and I carry around toys and stuff like that. But for me, honestly, the only way I can cut my sensory stuff is I just need to be somewhere where I'm by myself and quiet. And my office is pretty comfortable for that. They do allow me to make it a pretty good space for that. I don't have to, I have a couch and stuff. I can sit and chill if need be. So
sorry, I'm just thinking here with some of the things that you touched on.
That's also part of my ADHD and autism, is I will just info dump as much as
possible.
It's like very informative. I'm like, damn.
Well, I think the thing that's really standing out to me right now is just how you said you used to watch movies of teenage girls, and you would basically study them. And I mean, I feel like everybody does that. I mean, we watch movies, we take on some characteristics, right, of what we see. But is the difference between, somebody taking on a certain personality of a character and you watching that?
When we do it, it's probably, but we make it into our own, you know what I mean? Or is it like you just being that person?
Well, even just looking at someone and studying them, right? You can kind of like take them apart and be like, oh, I like this, I don't like this. But for you, is it twice as hard?
Oh yeah, I will stand there, and if someone crosses their arms, I subconsciously cross my arms too, because I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
It's hard for me to just be natural in a situation. I don't know what that's like. I feel that my body just tells me to do things that I don't fully understand sometimes, because I feel like if I wanted, because honestly, I'm the kind of person who I just want to chill and do literally nothing because I don't have to think about it. But like being in a social situation with lots of people, like I want to drink. I don't like to drink. But because that's to me would make me socially normal, it's something that I feel like I should do because of that, because I don't know how to not do that. So like I'll order a non-alcoholic drink and carry it around, or an alcoholic drink and carry it around just because that's what everyone else is doing. Yeah, because it's harder for me to read social cues. I don't understand when someone's being nice or if someone's flirting. I don't understand if someone's being mean or if they're being sarcastic. I don't understand things like that. I don't like when people make fun of me. It hurts my feelings. Even if they're joking, I don't take it as a joke. I take it literally. So there's a lot of issues when it comes to that social interactions that makes it hard for one, being a female, because other females are not nice. I always had friends that were guys because they were easy to read.
It's true.
But it's for real. Guys would be like, "You want to go play in the dirt?" "Yes, I do." Other girls would be like, "Well, do you want to come over and sit with Jessica to do something?" And like they were like, "You know, we want to be in our tea party." But then if I didn't do the tea party right, they didn't want to ever be my friend again. Like it was hard for me. I didn't know how to interact with kids. So I played football with boys. I was the kid in the dirt because it was easy for me to just do that versus trying to navigate those social interactions with females. So
out of curiosity, I mean, I know that you talked about watching movies and learning certain characteristics, but it sounds like there was a time where you used to hang around boys a lot and that was most comfortable with you. But then somewhere down the road, there was a shift where you could be around both genders.
Yeah.
Even carry yourself as a woman.
Yeah.
What was the shift for you?
Well, like a lot of it has to do with when you get to like high school.
Yeah.
We don't play in the dirt anymore, right? You have to be in these social groups and you have to be able to fit in. Plus I physically look like a female, right? So this is who I am, as I identify as a female. I'm a female human being. I don't know how female human beings should act though. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard for me. What's normal?
Oh, like I would say like what's the normal?
Yeah, right?
What's the norm?
Like gender norms.
Yeah.
It's hard for me. And they're actually, it's very common for individuals with autism and who are neurodivergent in general to be more gender fluid, because we don't know what's considered normal. Like our body just says and does what it wants. So I was a tomboy. Yeah. And I was a tomboy. I wanted to play around. I ride a motorcycle. I love cars. I do these things that wouldn't be considered gender norm, but I also love to bake and I love to cook and I really love a dress with sparkles. But these are all just things because I feel like I like them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Our stuff is based on what we like and what feels good to us, not necessarily what someone else says is good for us. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain, but that's...
No, I get you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Learning lots of things.
A lot of information. A lot of information. Sir, do you have any questions?
So you mentioned you have children, right?
Yeah.
So how does that, so with you, are they younger?
I have a stepson who's 15. I have an older son who's 15. And then I have an 8-year-old.
She's a mom.
Yeah, I'm a mom.
So how, just with you, like, the way you like go about, or like, you feel things, or you react to things, and take things, how did you get them to, like kind of teach them in a way, like, like was it like difficult for, I'm trying to.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so like when they're coming up, when they're brought up, like how did you go about like telling them like this is what's right and what's wrong, and you know?
So no, that's fine. I don't know, honestly. I have a kid who's neurodivergent as well.
Okay.
He's great. He's one of the most kind and compassionate and creative human beings you ever met in your life. He's easy to love because of that. Right. He was a difficult kid, and I was young when I had him. I was 19, so it was hard for me because I I'm gonna be honest, I think my mom and my grandma, it's hereditary.
Yeah.
Having autism or ADHD, that neurodivergence is.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain both my grandmother and my mom have some sort of neurodivergence. They would never admit to it. Older generations have a hard time accepting it.
Yeah.
But so I just did my best, and as an adult, I learned a lot about what was going on with my brain and my body, so that I could help teach my kids those things, because I didn't feel as a kid growing up in the 90s that especially as a female, we didn't have the same services and things that we have now. A lot of what I had to experience was me just figuring it out on my own.
And I asked that because just even for me working with children, I can see kids getting taken advantage of a lot, like even by other kids, you know what I mean? And it's like how do you, like, so it would be like, just thinking about it, like, they like just pretend to be your friend just to get you to do something or just to embarrass you, and it's like going home, or like your kid coming home and be like, this happened to me, and it's like, that would be tough, you know what I mean?
And my kid's been bullied because he's different. And I remember being bullied. I would have done anything for girls to be my friend, because I wanted them to like me. And so I'm gonna have a real talk here. I used to lie all the time about what my life was like at home, because I wanted them to like me, and not because it made me feel great, or like I just wanted them to be like, oh, she's cool, I want to spend time with her. So, and I was bullied. I went through some weight problems in middle school due to depression and anxiety. I was a weird kid because I'm different than a lot of other people. And so I had like some solid friends, but I was definitely not a popular kid. And so now having this kid, luckily the world's a lot more welcoming than it used to be.
For sure.
Definitely.
But I pride in being a parent who allows my kids to be who they want. I have a transgender child. And I love watching him be who he is, and I want my kids to be compassionate and empathetic and loving and smart and creative and accepting of others, because I grew up in a world where that wasn't what happened.
I was gonna say, you just said it, like, it's just different now. You know what I mean? Like, our generation was pretty shitty with that stuff, and this generation is more open, more welcoming, and it's like, in a sense, it's like, grateful for that, but then you still have the seeds planted here and there, but for the most part, it's just it's just open and accepted, and that's great for these these young men and women that just are figuring their life out, or going through what they're going through, and because you never know what somebody got going on when they leave their house, or.
And we talk about that, like when bullies come up in school, as me working with kids with trauma played a big part in that, is bullied kids they bully. Right? Because when they're experiencing something, especially at home, a lot of bullies, statistically speaking, have experienced domestic violence in their home, or poverty, or these other things. They're watching their mom get beat, their dad's an alcoholic, stuff happens because they're experiencing that kind of stuff at home.
Blaming themselves.
And then they go and they pick on someone else because it makes them feel better. And then, so how I've taught my kids is we need to remember that their behavior doesn't reflect anything on you. I'm different, okay, I get that. But if someone chooses to not welcome that, then that's on them, not me. I'm not responsible for their behavior. And so that's something that I really try to work on. And I try to tell kids that even when I work with a lot of teenagers, even now, that their thoughts and beliefs have nothing to do with you. That's on them. You just be kind and considerate and understanding of other people, and you're golden. Like, I can't be in charge of someone else's thoughts and feelings.
And when did you get to that point where it's like, where you stop saying, well, it's my fault, it's like, well, if they don't like me, that's on them. Recently?
Honestly, with some of my autism diagnosis, that's when I really started looking into and feeling it, because we have this thing when you're neurodivergent called sensitivity dysphoria, where you could tell me, oh, hey, how you doing? And because you didn't say it like you did yesterday when you were like, what's up, how you doing, right?
Yeah.
I immediately think, oh shit, what did I do?
Right.
I immediately start to feel bad. I think that the reason why I'm different is something that I'm doing wrong, and I'm not fitting in with other people for that reason. So it takes a long time to learn that, and I have good days and bad days. There are sometimes someone will say something and I just immediately think it's my fault. It's just how my brain processes those feelings and that information. And it takes time. You just gotta learn how to love yourself. And honestly, and he can speak to this, Mr. Green over here, that he sees it. I tried really hard during my day to be positive about who I am, and it's okay that I'm different. Honestly, that's what makes me a blessing to the world, and I don't want anyone else to feel different than that. And that's something we've talked about before.
Yeah, for sure. There are two versions of JC that I get to see because I'm just in her office all the time.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is similar for me. I need it quiet. Like I say it on the podcast all the time. My level of anxiety is just, it's not a joke. So I need a quiet space. And if I don't have it, I'm all over. But two versions that you would see with her. There's the fun, loving, like outgoing sort of JC. Everyone goes to her for whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's the quiet JC, the one who's focused on what needs to be done, the one who's more low key and just trying to keep it all together.
So, question for you. So, do you when you're probably just you're the normal, fun-loving role you are, when you go see JC and she's not in that mode, like how do you balance that?
No, that's a good question. It's funny because this even happened Thursday when I came back. We were checking in and I just kept asking. I kept continuously asking. I was like, you good? Everything okay? You need something? And she's like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I was like, no, she's fucking lying. She's lying.
This is the thing we do. Are you JC fine? Or are you actually fine? Because I have two kinds of fine. I'm good, I'm solid. Or I'm just trying to make sure that I don't run out of here crying because I'm overwhelmed with everything that's going on. Usually it's JC fine, if we're gonna tell the truth here. But I'm the same, I don't know, I'm sensitive to that too. Like if I'm in a good mood and someone else I know, like him or anyone I'm working with is in a bad, sometimes I don't know how to handle that because I'm like an emotion sponge and I want to be like, oh, so I'm bringing it down. But again, I copy people. So I try really hard to not be that way. It's not as natural as I wish it was, but we make it work. Yeah.
I mean, usually when it comes to just being in the office, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I'd say in certain parts, like your office is always chill. So you usually see our team in there and it's uplifting, I would say. And it can be that way or it can be really, really chill. So it can go one or the other.
You guys have a big team or?
No, we're small as shit.
Yeah, there's 5 of us, including me. So, but we work with individuals who are neurodivergent and have different things going on. I try to create a space even in my office it's a safe space, I guess. I also want it to be fun. I have toys in my office. For God's sakes, I just hung up do you remember Rugrats? You know, Angelica's doll, Cynthia? I just made a painting of her. I painted it myself. With the crazy hair. Remind me, I'll show you. I hung it up in my office. Romero's scared of it. He's like, she looks terrifying.
Listen.
So I put her up behind him. It's funny. But,
how dare you? Like you did that on purpose.
I'm telling you. Yeah, but so I like to have fun. So one thing about ADHD and neurodivergence, which I wanted to talk about a little bit, was hyperfixations. Okay, so it's this thing where we get really excited about something, and I could do it forever. I play video games. Okay, I will never not play video games. They make me happy. I played World of Warcraft for 17 years.
Really?
Oh yeah. So for me, it's a big thing about I like something that keeps my mind busy. I play The Sims and I build houses and let other people download them for fun, which was actually a sign of autism that my mom missed when I was younger. I like to build my houses for my Barbies. I didn't like to play social stories with my Barbies. That can be a sign of autism in girls. is we're not as social. We like to line things up or decorate or do stuff. I spent more time making pillows out of socks that I found randomly in my house because I wanted my house to look nice versus me actually playing with the Barbies, you know? So I get these hyperfixations where I can sit and do something for hours, and it's actually a superpower, because if I say, I'm gonna learn how to do this, I'm gonna learn how to do it. I will spend the next month of my life researching, reading, taking in that information, getting things done. So that's, I mean, I have Batman shoes, I have Batman stuff, I collect Barbies, I still play with toys. Like, I just do whatever makes me happy because that's what my brain likes to do. And we get those hyperfixations, and that can be difficult for people to understand. Like, why do you have so many Barbies in your house? You're a grown woman. And this is just what I love. But right, there are a lot of people who don't care, and that's the great part. But there are still people who will judge you for it, for doing something that you love. So it's just something that it gives you that boost constantly, those happy hormones, and we can be addicted to stuff like that. So I don't know. I just opened. I probably spent $70 on toys this morning. I'm not making that up.
On what?
Yeah.
Do you like the old school toys or like the?
It depends. I collect a lot of stuff. I collect Beauty and the Beast stuff. It was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater. I became obsessed with it after that. I read a lot of books. So Belle was like my princess. And I love mini brands. I love tiny stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
Are you
obsessed.
into was it the pop? What is it called with the big heads? Funko Pop?
Oh yeah, Funko Pops.
Pop.
I have some of them, but only if I have Barbie ones and I have Batman ones. I have Wonder Woman. I'm a DC fan.
Keep the shoes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
Superman shoes too. Yeah. But
DC, huh?
yeah, always. And he come from a lot of tragedy.
Yeah. Okay.
I like the dark part of it. You know.
DC is dark, man.
Yeah,
DC is dark.
Yeah. There's a whole story behind that too. But so I also collect like mini brands. I have Barbies because I always love Barbies because I like their tiny things. I love tiny clothes and tiny like whatever. I don't know why exactly, but my brain just gets so happy. So this morning I literally opened up tiny pairs of shoes in a shoe box, and they had the paper and the tiny sneakers. I was like, how did I not know this was a thing? I bought them today. So these are just things that make me happy and make me different. And something that I really love, and it's just part of, you know, giving me that boost of happy hormones in my brain, and it's a healthy thing, you know. I'm not out doing drugs instead. I'm just buying tiny toys, I guess.
Right.
That's cool. That's cool though. But that makes me think. I have two questions that are different from the other. Question for you, Eric. I don't think I've ever asked you. And we've been friends for so long, and I've seen you at different moments, and I'm like, it's happy as shit. But what's something that makes you really, really happy?
Makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, something that you really
That's
enjoy, but you don't give a
Yeah.
fuck what anyone else thinks. Like for me, you know it's Dragon Ball Z. I don't give a shit.
Well, that too. I was really big into cartoons. Like I can watch cartoons all fucking day. Like I can watch Dragon Ball Z all for hours, you know. But just something along the lines of that. Just I don't know. Just where I don't have to do anything, you know. Just kind of
kick it.
And,
chill.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay. And then question 2. This is more of a professional question. JC, maybe you can give some input on this as well. Going back to.
Are you asking me this or you asking JC?
Kind of both, really.
Okay.
Sorry. But
It's a 2 for 1.
Thinking about the conversation and talking about kids, them coming up and how, you know, they're more exposed to, I'd say, more information.
Yeah.
We're more open to things, right?
Yeah.
I still wonder about caregivers. Like, there are those who still kind of miss the mark. And I guess I'm kind of wondering, like, why is it? Why is it that in this day and age where we have all of this information, there are parents who either don't know what's going on with their kid, or it's almost like they're in denial about what's happening. It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, well, honestly, my take on it, I think it's more denial. I think it's more denial. Because I have a caseload. I have a student that needs way more services than we're giving him, but the parents just won't, he's he don't need that, and it's like, for that situation, I believe it's a cultural thing, you know what I mean? I truly do. I think it's a lot of denial because there's too much information out here for us and parents, not to
take action.
Yeah, take action.
Yeah.
And like a lot don't know. But then when you still offer the help and the knowledge and the info, and it's like sometimes they still don't take it. Sometimes they will. It just depends on the situation. Really, I believe.
Yeah. So. Me personally, having a kid who has neurodivergence, and I also have a kid who has some physical disabilities too. What happens when you're having a kid is you kind of picture this life for them.
Right.
That they're going to grow up, they're going to be doctors and lawyers, and they're going to change the world, and they're going to do these things. And then you have a kid who's born with some sort of disability, or I like to call a different ability, and you grieve. You grieve a lot about what you thought life was going to be like for you and your kids, especially when it's significantly more expensive to raise a kid with a disability than it is to raise a kid without, because you have to seek extra services. If you come from a different socio-economical background, if you come from a different culture, if you come from things where mental health, like in a lot of Asian cultures, they don't think that it's a good thing to talk about mental health. There's a lot of things that come up with this. And it make it difficult for an individual to go, okay, well now things are going to be different. And then most of these issues that kids are having, or these diagnoses, are invisible. You can't see them.
Yeah.
So I explain this to parents on a regular basis. When they don't make adaptations for their children, I say, if your kid didn't have legs, would you make him walk up the stairs? And they look at me and go, well, what do you mean? Would you not install a ramp?
Right.
Would you not figure out how they could get up put on those little seats that move up? Like, how would you do that? And they're like, well, obviously. Well, then how come you can't do that for your kid who needs a different adaptation? Like, I just needed to be more quiet at night because my brain is tired and it's harder for me to fall asleep, for me to get good sleep so I can be helpful at school. It's because parents have to make the adaptations to themselves. It is not the kid who needs to make changes. It's a parent who needs to make changes. That means that I have to sometimes not do the things I want to do because I have to be there for my kid, or I have to do things. It's a huge thing. And part of that grief and that stuff is denial of what life was supposed to be like. Nah, we'll be fine, they got it, they're fine. And then when they don't receive those services, they're not going to be successful adults. They're going to have a harder time functioning. And it's changing our perception, and that's a hard thing to do. Okay, we think we can make the kid better, but these are things that the kid this is just how my brain works. I can't make it work any differently. I can make adaptations as an adult, but you can't force a kid to make adaptations. You can teach them skills and how to be better with something, but it's parents who have to change their expectations and those things, and that's really hard to do as established adults. Especially when you want your kid to grow up and be a doctor and do these things. It's a difficult thing.
Well, you're stuck, right? Not to sound cliche, but the common thing that you hear with adults is, oh, you're stuck in your ways.
Yeah.
So.
And it happens a lot where they don't want to accept the change. They don't want to have to do the work. And it's a parent who has to do the majority of the work when it's a kid.
Heavy stuff. Okay.
Those are just some words of wisdom. By J.C. Hansen, you're welcome. You can definitely isolate that. I like it.
Okay.
Oh, like, I was already clipping that. I was already clipping that. I even looked at what time it was. I was like, all right,
Just saying, in case you need me to do any special things for the future, I got it.
I was wondering what you were looking at too, not to cut you off, but I kept seeing you look up and I was like, what's up there?
I should have put it on all the things over there. But
See you struggling?
I'm gonna just get it canceled. I'm gonna just edit it out.
Nailed it. All right.
Nailed it.
So another question that I have for you, kind of going back to your smorgasbord of stuff, we'll say. When you were growing up, what were, just to hear about your challenges, what about with relationships? What was that like for you?
Like as in an intimate relationship?
Yeah, let's go there.
I don't know, I had a boyfriend at 12. I mean, and when I say boyfriend, I mean like he was this boy in my neighborhood who I just thought was so cute, right? And he asked me, you want to be my girlfriend? And I was like, sure. I did not know what that meant, right? But I actually dated the same guy until I was 18. So, I don't know. It was weird, I guess, because I don't know what's socially normal. And sometimes we can hyperfixate on a person, which is, something that you guys have talked about before. So I don't know. I guess I was just learning and like anybody else, but as an adult, it's different because there's more things that come with it, right? Like when you're a kid, you just are like, school, relationship.
Right.
And your relationship's your whole life outside of school, and school is the whole life out. There's like two things. But when you're an adult, you have other things going on, like your family and kids and other stuff. That's hard for me. Communication was really hard for me, being able to be open about stuff. I used to do the opposite of what I do now, where I just didn't say anything. I let people walk all over me a lot. That was hard. And then I got my voice, and now I think I tell people what's wrong. But I don't know. I don't know. I guess for me, it's normal how relationships work are different.
Sorry not to cut you off, but that's similar to what Jake said when he was on. Like, from an outside perspective, it can be looked at as someone who has ADD or ADHD, but to them, it's just a normal life.
I guess I definitely looked for people who are more exciting and dangerous. So we can be adrenaline junkies because of those happy hormones. Like, that's why I like riding motorcycles, and I love fast cars, and I love roller coasters, and I want to skydive.
You're about action.
Listen, because to me, it's a rush that you can't get in any other way, right? That's why addiction's a big problem with individuals who are neurodivergent, is we're constantly self-medicating, if we're not on medication, to give ourselves those happy hormones in our brain. We can be addicted to it. So I really like doing that stuff. So I would always go for, I'm just gonna put this in quotes, bad boys, right? They weren't really bad boys, but they were guys who were more difficult to be in a relationship with. I really grew up in a house of turmoil sometimes, and so that was hard. My mom had been married a few times, and unstable relationships, so I was addicted to that too, the ups and downs of a relationship. When they really, really love me, and then they really, really hate me. And then we'd fight and argue and those things because it's exciting, and that's a big part of it. So for me as a female, that's kind of what I looked for a lot in a relationship. Someone who made things exciting, not necessarily healthy, for sure.
It's interesting. So, and we talk about this all the time, about relationships. And like, you could be with somebody and they could just mess your life up, or vice versa. But with what you're saying, I find that fascinating because, this high that you could be riding, and even when you go down, you just want that thing again. You can be with somebody, or you could be in a position where it always feels wrong, but because you want that high, or you're just used to this cycle, you think that's the norm.
It's so where we want it. I'm gonna say, I'm messing stuff up. A neurotypical person wants to be in that zone usually of things are just good, right? Like solid, not lots of ups, not lots of downs. Yes, those happen, but you kind of just want to stay kind of consistent. And how my brain works is I'm an extremist, right? I either am really, really sad or I'm really, really happy. There's not really a lot in between. With my medication, I do take medication for my neurodivergence, and then I also take an anxiety medication and depression medication for my PTSD, which helps level out, so I'm not feeling so extreme all the time. So I try to stay within those zones, which is what, to me, a neurotypical person should be looking for. But I definitely was always on the search of that up and down and up and down and up and down. And then I realized that that's so unhealthy It's exhausting, and honestly, it's not safe
Yeah.
for a person. That's how you get into situations where people are violent, and you're more accepting of those things. And just seeking that out is something that I've learned to not do. Is I kind of definitely want more of what's in that stable zone, because that's what makes me feel better. And I had to learn more about myself and my brain and why I do those things. I would say all relationships are not easy, regardless if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. And I think now knowing more about my neurodivergence makes me a better partner. Because I can tell you, hey, I'm feeling bitchy today because I'm really overwhelmed and stressed out. I'm hypersensitive. Just give me a minute. I don't like to be touched sometimes. And I will voice it and say, hey, it has nothing to do with you. It's just me. So I don't know. I would like to say that knowing more about myself helps.
For sure, that counts.
Yeah. Being able to communicate my needs in a better way is important too. You know, just saying, hey, I need these things because I can't function without them. Right now I'm with someone, and if he tries to touch the dishes in the morning, I freak out because so I had to like get really good at just saying, please don't do this right now, or even taking it upon myself and doing the dishes before I go to bed. So then it's not a problem in the morning. Just compromise and working as much as you can to try to help with those things.
Bringing up medications. When, like, for you, when you're taking medication and you run out.
Unmedicated JC, yes. You want to talk about that? All right.
Well, what's the biggest difference between you on medication and you off of it?
Well, first of all, there's not a lot of long-term studies on the long-term effects of stimulant medication on the brain. So I've been taking stimulant medication, well, let's see, the last bout for, 8 years.
Okay.
And when you get off of the medication, it's like, so I'm constantly right now in that like zone, right? And without my medication, it's like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and I'm not used to that. It sometimes makes me crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. It makes me feel everything more intense, and I'm more impulsive. I'll just like, oh, cool, I'd rather go do this instead of actually doing my work. It's hard just for me to just do normal functions, and my sensory stuff is like way off the charts. I don't feel good. I just feel everything really intensely. It's because I've been on medication for so long, it's really hard, and you got to experience a good month of me not having my medication at work. I'm still a normal, wonderful, happy person. However, I was definitely more overwhelmed, I guess you would probably say. What did you see? Because you brought it up a couple of times. Unmedicated.
Oh no, man, you were fun. You were fun as hell. You're always fun, but I think the biggest difference was, when you actually have your meds, when to have a good time and stuff and make people laugh, and when to be like, all right, I got stuff to do. When you weren't, it could go on.
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's when we're like, okay, cool. I actually have toys at work. You want to play with them for the next 4 hours? We gotta actually work. I'd rather play with the toys.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I tend to seek those happy hormone moments, because what it does is with that chemical deficiency, when you get those, it brings you back down to the normal. So again, that's why with the things like I love to ride my motorcycle, because the high of being on it makes me feel normal. So stimulant medication is like having lots of caffeine in your brain. It gives you stimulants. So like when I drink a Red Bull, it does the opposite for me as it does for most other people. It does not make me awake, it makes me focused. Because it gives those stimulants in my brain to level out my chemistry.
It just goes to
so then,
to go, right?
Yeah, it's like I become a superhuman, and I can get so many things done because I can hyper focus on what I need to do versus me wanting to go play with toys and ride my motorcycle and do things that are more fun. It's kind of the best way to explain it. Is it really just balances out my chemistry.
I get you. Sorry, I'm just thinking.
That's all right.
Because I've heard people say similar things.
Yeah.
Just with caffeine alone. Like for some people they get a boost of energy, and for others it just kind of levels them out.
I actually sleep better if I have caffeine before I go to bed.
See, that's interesting.
Because it quiets my brain. It makes me feel more, again, in that normal zone. So it's easier for me to go to sleep. Like I could have a few cups of coffee.
I was gonna say, are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah, it's hard on my stomach, which that's a whole nother thing. But it's but I could definitely have like an energy drink and then go to sleep. And people always think that's weird. They're like, what's going on with you? It's just that's how my brain processes that stuff.
Okay. Before I ask my next question, I'm gonna shift it over to my man because it looks like you're thinking. You sure?
Yeah.
All right. He's
Wow.
thinking.
No, I don't have any more questions. This is great.
Yeah. Okay.
I like this type of information, especially in my field of work. Yeah, I don't have any more questions.
All right. Talking about kids, though, I wanted to ask you this: with everything that you know just about yourself and working with parents and whatnot, what's a common misconception that people have when it comes to autism?
That autistic individuals are stupid. I would feel like that's a big one, or that they're dangerous, or they're not capable of things.
Yeah,
it's called a spectrum for a reason, right? So like it's like the rainbow, right? There's many different colors, creeds, whatever, and there are people which they used to call like Asperger's used to be considered high functioning. It's not an actual diagnosis anymore. But where they were just like me. I have a job and a family, and I would say I'm a fairly sufficient human being. And then there are some who are what considered low functioning, not really the terms we like to use anymore, but where they require more services and more things like that. And people are scared of it. And for a long time, the whole vaccine thing was a big thing that people talk about.
Yeah.
Kids get vaccinated, they're gonna have autism. That's not how it works. But it's just people, it's like a term people don't understand. When I tell people I'm autistic, they're like, get out of here. No, you're not. Yeah, I actually am.
Right.
Like, it's just, I don't know. They think they know stuff about it, and what they do know is not usually correct. And for a long time, again, females were not considered to be able to be autistic for a long time, because the diagnosis and the criteria for diagnosing was based around males. Most of the studies and things that were ever done on autism were from males because they presented differently and more, I would say, loudly. It's more obvious usually for a male. So that's a lot of misconception too, is that females, you know, can be autistic. A lot of people think they can't be, or that, you know.
To add on to what you're saying, just about studies, especially with males.
Yeah.
Another part of that is not only were the studies done on males, but on white males.
Yes,
A lot of them. So for us as African Americans, we were overlooked in that way as well.
They're underdiagnosed and tested so much later, and which is really unfortunate because there's such a lack of services, and early interventions are such an important part of neurodivergence, so that kids can learn those skills. And it's really unfortunate that, especially like in poorer neighborhoods, you know, different demographics, they are overlooked quite often, which is, you know, we have a lot of kids like that in our clinic. I'm sure you see a lot of kids in your school, and then the unfortunate part is that their parents don't have the education they always need.
Yeah.
And it's generational, right? Because their parents and then their parents and their parents of those minority groups never received proper healthcare, education, mental health care, a lot of those things that now is multi-generational. And now that you're really starting to see struggles because grandparents don't understand it, parents aren't fully understanding, or they don't have the economic means to take care of their kid the way they need to. So there's a lot that goes into that when you're talking about, you know, those different demographics of kids.
So what do you do when there's this common misconception, and on top of that, there's this sort of pushback from, I guess, the world, where it's like, no, that's not what's happening with my kid, or, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? What is this thing? No, that's not real, I guess.
Education, I guess, is, we can't make a parent do better. We can just do our best to do what's best for the kid by giving the education. And unfortunately, in this world, there's not a lot we can do. I can't step in. And if it comes to, as mandated reporters, if we ever see neglect, those kinds of things for people who aren't able to do that stuff, that's where we would have to step in. But we can't change somebody's mind. But just being supportive, sometimes me telling the parents I work with that I'm autistic, like we talked about that before, makes a difference, because they're like, wait a second, you are? Yeah.
Face lights up.
Because guess what? Autistic individuals are sometimes way more intelligent than the average individual.
Definitely.
It's just that we have this thing where our brain processes information in and out so differently. It's not that I'm not smart. I'm incredibly brilliant. However, my brain scrambles things up when I try to find it. So I kind of explain it to people in the way, especially for being smart, which has a lot to do with this. Parents are just like, well, my kid can't do these things. Yeah, they can. We just do it differently. It's like somebody mixed up all the files in my file cabinet in my brain and never put anything in alphabetical order. It's there. It just takes me a little bit longer to get it out.
Right.
And when I do, I'm going to be almost 100% correct. I'm pretty spot on about that stuff. So it's just a hard thing to try to explain to parents. Being kind and understanding what they're feeling too. It could just be that they don't know any better.
So, with the combination of things that make you you, what's something that you would like to do in the future?
Oh man, that's a lot of things. I actually want to start my own podcast at some point, which apparently is now, for the love of Pete, is a thing. Yeah, it's fine. Also, I'm fidgety, which is another neurodivergent thing. It's just how I function. But I'd like to start a podcast that talks about specifically female experiences, especially in the workplace or as moms, or as just in this world where we're supposed to look a certain way and do these things. That female experience of it's pretty different.
Should we edit that part out so no one takes that idea?
No, that's fine. Okay. I already have it started, so I'm just working on it. I just have to find time. I'm a busy lady. I'd love to give a TED Talk. I'd love to write a book. I would love to do lots of things. I just want to give more people hope for what their future could look like despite a diagnosis. And also help other parents work with their kids and know what, that just because you have this doesn't mean you can't have a fulfilling life. I've done lots of different things already in my life. I feel pretty old already at 35, and I just want to be able to help people as much as I possibly can. I don't want anyone to ever feel the way I used to feel as an individual, where I felt hopeless and that I couldn't have accomplished my dreams or do those things. I'm totally capable of doing them, and I've even surpassed my own expectations, and that's what I just hope to help other people learn in the future.
Solid stuff. Unless you have some questions that you have, maybe we'll do last call.
No, we can do my last call is going to be a question anyway, so we can do last call.
We'll start. Excuse me. Sorry, I meant to say cool. Go ahead, sir.
So for my last, you listen, so you know the last call.
Yeah.
But for my last call, we're starting a new school year in 2 weeks. So for me as a special education teacher, do you have any advice for me going into this year that I can take with me and spread to my kids that I work, because I work with across the board?
I guess see them as a person, not a diagnosis.
Okay.
And usually people who work in the field see the kids that way anyways, but really just see them. Yeah. And really find what their strengths are and point that out. And not only just do that, but help the parents know that too. Yeah. Lots of positivity. We use those pride skills in our job where we talk a lot about being positive and pointing out what they're good at instead of the deficits. Yeah. Because that's what the diagnosis for like ADHD is. It's a deficit. I have less of something. But in all reality, I have more of a lot of other things that people don't get. Being kind. That's when you're working with the kids specifically, that's just what, as a kid, if I had teachers who paid more attention to what my strengths were, I wouldn't have struggled so much in school. I would have had somebody look at me and say, hey, you're totally awesome and you can do so many great things, and that wouldn't have held me back from doing a lot of the things that I maybe wanted to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Wise words.
More Words of Wisdom by J.C. Hansen. That should be a whole
I
segment.
feel like you're
Can
plugging
we
a
do
lot
that?
right now.
Can we have a whole segment? I would do this.
You got it, man.
There's a lot of information was given this episode.
Yeah, this was great. Great.
I think one thing is reflecting on everything. Even for us as people, like we have to learn to be open to more things, as uncomfortable as it can be. But even as a parent,
Comfortable being uncomfortable. Right?
yeah.
That's the only way you can grow. You can't grow in a comfortable situation.
Some people don't want to grow.
Their loss, I guess.
But yeah, that's it. Just be open. Even for myself, I have to remind myself of those things. It's like, it's okay. You should be open to certain stuff. So
Definitely, man.
what about you, Miss JC?
My last call is I just want to tell you thank you. I guess I really appreciate listening to you guys, and I love to hear your take on things, both of you. Because I love to take in anybody's, like we just said, be accepting of others and listen to someone else's point of view and understanding where someone comes from, and what everyone experiences is unique and different. And it takes a lot of guts to put our beliefs and our ideas and our thoughts out into the world. And kudos to you guys for that. That's
Thank you.
pretty amazing.
Appreciate that.
For the younger generation, do you have any words of wisdom?
Be weird. I'm being serious.
I know.
I honestly, weird is not a bad word. It is, honestly, I tell my kid this on a regular basis. It is the weird people who make the changes. It is the people who don't fit in the box who make the changes. Some of the greatest minds in history were weird. Albert Einstein. Did you know Justin Timberlake, he has ADHD?
Yeah.
Did you know a lot of...
I didn't know that. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I did
A lot
not know
of
that.
Michael Phelps. All kinds of people. They all have these neurodivergent brains, and they're the people who make changes and do things and think outside the box and are creative. So be weird. It's honestly the only way to be. Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, E, can you bring us home, sir?
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Symposium podcast, episode 75.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm E. Wright.
Rose Gold.
We would like to thank our very special guest,
Jason
JC Hansen, for joining us today, man. So remember, like you said, be weird. All right.
Weird.
Episode 75. Till next time, everybody. We out.